The betrayal and disappearance. The perfect evening that wasn't. The champagne glasses sparkled under the crystal chandelier, reflecting a life that looked perfect from every angle. Elena Morrison stood in the marble foyer of her penthouse, balancing shopping bags from an afternoon spent searching for the perfect anniversary gift. 5 years of marriage deserved something special, something that would make Marcus smile the way he used to when they first met. She had chosen a vintage watch, the exact model his father had worn. It cost more than most people's cars, but money didn't matter. Marcus was worth it. Their love was worth it, or so she believed. The elevator doors closed behind her with a soft whisper, sealing her inside the life she thought she knew. The bags rustled as she shifted them, trying to find her keys. That's when she heard it. A sound that didn't belong in her silent afternoon home. Laughter. A woman's laughter, bright and familiar, coming from upstairs. The sound of betrayal. Elena's heart stumbled. Victoria was here. Her best friend since college. The maid of honor at her wedding. The woman she trusted with every secret. But why would Victoria be here in the middle of the afternoon? And why was she laughing like that? The shopping bags slipped from Elena's fingers, landing on the floor with a muffled thud. Her feet moved on autopilot, carrying her toward the grand staircase. Each step felt heavy, like walking through water. The marble was cold beneath her heels, but she barely noticed. The laughter grew louder. Then came another sound. A man's voice, deep and rough. Marcus's voice. But he was supposed to be in Singapore for business. He wasn't supposed to be home until tomorrow. Elena reached the top of the stairs. The master bedroom door stood slightly open, a sliver of afternoon sunlight cutting across the hallway carpet. Her hand trembled as she pushed it wider. The truth in broad daylight. The scene before her shattered like glass. Marcus, her husband, tangled in their silk sheets with Victoria, her best friend. They hadn't heard her approach. Victoria was wearing Elena's robe, the expensive one Marcus had bought for her birthday. The irony was almost funny. Almost. Marcus. Elena's voice came out as a whisper, barely audible above the pounding of her heart. They froze. Victoria's eyes went wide with shock that quickly morphed into something else. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. Marcus didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. He simply stared at Elena with cold, empty eyes. "You're home early," he said, as if Elena had interrupted a business meeting instead of destroying her entire world. Elena felt her knees weaken. "What is this? Marcus, what are you doing?" Victoria laughed again, but this time it was different. Sharp and cruel. "Oh, Elena."
Sweet, naive Elena.
"Did you really think this was going to last forever?" The conspiracy unfolds. Marcus climbed out of bed, pulling on his pants with casual indifference. "We need to talk," he said. "I've been meaning to end this for a while now." "End what?" Elena's voice cracked. "Our marriage? You're having an affair with my best friend and you just want to talk." "It's not an affair if the marriage was fake to begin with," Victoria said, sitting up against the headboard. She looked comfortable there, in Elena's bed, in Elena's home. "God, you really are as stupid as Marcus said." The words hit like physical blows. Elena grabbed the doorframe to steady herself. "What are you talking about?" Marcus sighed, running his hand through his hair. "Elena, I married you for one reason. Your father's company shares. The 20% he left you in his will. That's all you were ever good for." The room spun. Elena's father had died 3 years ago, leaving her his shares in Morrison Technologies, the company he'd built from nothing. Marcus had been so supportive during that time, so loving. He'd held her while she cried, promising they'd honor her father's legacy together. It was all a lie. The stolen legacy. "You see," Victoria continued, examining her nails with casual cruelty. "Marcus and I have been together since before your wedding. We met at that charity gala, remember? The one where you introduced us. We realized we had so much in common. Ambition, intelligence, a taste for the finer things. And then we realized you were the key to everything." "The shares," Elena whispered. "The shares." Marcus confirmed. Once we were married, I convinced you to sign them over to me. For better management. Remember? You trusted me completely. It was almost too easy. Elena did remember. 6 months after her father's death, Marcus had presented her with papers. He'd said it was just a formality, a way to consolidate their assets for tax purposes. She'd signed without reading them carefully because she loved him, because she trusted him. Those shares were worth $500 million, Victoria said. And you just handed them over like a fool. Marcus sold them immediately and used the money to expand Morrison Industries. Your father's company? It doesn't even exist anymore. Marcus absorbed it, stripped it for parts, and threw away what was left. The divorce papers. Elena felt tears streaming down her face, but she couldn't stop them. You destroyed my father's legacy? Your father's legacy was mediocre, Marcus said coldly. I made it into something worthwhile. I made it into power. And now that I have what I need, I don't need you anymore. He walked to the dresser and pulled out a manila envelope. These are divorce papers. I've had them drawn up for 3 months. I'm giving you nothing, no alimony, no settlement. You came into this marriage with nothing but those shares, and since you gave them to me willingly, you'll leave with nothing too. Elena took the envelope with shaking hands. You can't do this. I already did, Marcus said. Sign them. Tonight. Or I'll make your life even more miserable than it already is. Victoria slid out of bed, still wearing Elena's robe. She walked over and placed a hand on Marcus's chest in a gesture of ownership. Don't be too hard on her, darling. She did serve her purpose. She was a perfectly boring wife who didn't ask questions and did whatever you told her to do. It's not her fault she was too stupid to see what was right in front of her face. The final humiliation. Elena looked at the woman she'd called her best friend for 10 years. They'd shared everything. Dreams, fears, secrets. Elena had been maid of honor at Victoria's first wedding. She'd held Victoria's hand through her divorce. She'd introduced Victoria to Marcus, thinking they'd all be friends together. You planned this from the beginning, Elena said. Victoria smiled. From the very first day, when you introduced us at that gala, I saw the potential immediately. Marcus was ambitious but needed capital. You had capital but were too weak to use it. I suggested he marry you, court you, make you fall in love. And you did so easily. It was like taking candy from a baby. Marcus checked his watch. Sign the papers, Elena. My lawyer is coming at 8 to collect them. If they're not signed, I'll file for divorce anyway and drag you through court. I'll make sure everyone knows you were an inadequate wife who couldn't even keep your husband interested. I'll destroy whatever reputation you have left. Elena stared at the papers in her hands. Her whole life reduced to a stack of documents. Everything she'd believed was real. Her marriage, her friendship, her father's legacy. All lies. The breaking point. I need a pen, she whispered. Victoria handed her one with a triumphant smile. Don't be sad, Elena. You'll find someone else eventually. Someone who doesn't mind boring, useless women. Elena signed each page mechanically, her hand moving on autopilot while her mind screamed. When she finished, she set the pen down carefully on the dresser. I'll be out by tonight, she said quietly. Good, Marcus replied. Leave your credit cards and keys on the table. Everything you have came from me. You'll leave with exactly what you brought into this marriage. Nothing. Elena walked to the closet and pulled out a small suitcase. She packed quickly, grabbing only clothes and a few personal items. The diamond necklace Marcus had given her last Christmas stayed on the dresser. The designer handbags Victoria had always admired stayed in the closet. She didn't want anything that reminded her of them. The escape. As Elena walked toward the elevator, Victoria called out, Elena? No hard feelings, right? It was just business. Elena didn't turn around. She kept walking until she reached the elevator, got inside, and watched the doors close on the penthouse she'd called home. In the lobby, the doorman smiled at her. Have a good evening, Mrs. Morrison. She didn't correct him. In a few days, she wouldn't be Mrs. Morrison anymore. She'd be nobody. Elena walked out onto the Manhattan street with her single suitcase and the clothes on her back. She pulled out her wallet and counted her cash. $200. That was all she had in the world. Her credit cards wouldn't work anymore. Her bank accounts had all been joined with Marcus, and he'd probably already frozen them. She started walking, not sure where she was going. All she knew was that she had to get away from that building, that life, those people, the secret she carried. 3 blocks away, Elena stopped at a coffee shop bathroom. She locked the door and leaned against the sink, finally allowing herself to fall apart. The sobs came in great, wrenching waves. She cried for her marriage, her friendship, her father's destroyed legacy. She cried for the fool she'd been. And then she remembered. With trembling hands, Elena reached into her purse and pulled out a small box. Inside was a pregnancy test positive. She'd taken it that morning, planning to surprise Marcus at their anniversary dinner tonight. She was 8 weeks pregnant with his child. A child he didn't know about. A child she would now have to raise alone with $200 to her name. Elena looked at herself in the coffee shop mirror. Her mascara had run down her face. Her expensive dress was wrinkled. Her hair was a mess. She looked like a woman who'd lost everything. Because she had. The disappearance. Elena bought a bus ticket to nowhere with the last of her cash. She didn't care where it went as long as it was far from New York, far from Marcus, far from Victoria, far from the life that had chewed her up and spit her out. On the bus, she fell asleep against the window and dreamed of revenge. But revenge required power, and she had none. For now, all she could do was disappear. 5 years later, the mysterious buyer. The Morrison Industries boardroom had never felt so tense. Marcus Morrison sat at the head of the table, his jaw clenched as he reviewed the acquisition documents for the 3rd time. His company was failing, drowning in debt after a series of bad investments. He needed this deal with Blackwood Enterprises, but something about it felt wrong. "They're offering $800 million, his CFO said nervously. "That's twice what anyone else would pay. But there are conditions." "What conditions?" Marcus snapped. "They want complete control. Board seats. Management changes. And they want to meet you personally before signing." Marcus threw the papers down. 5 years ago, he'd been on top of the world. He'd taken Elena's inheritance, built an empire, married Victoria in a lavish ceremony that made headlines. But everything had fallen apart. His investments had crumbled. His partners had betrayed him. And Victoria was making his life a living hell. "Fine," Marcus said. "Set up the meeting. I'll meet with whoever runs Blackwood Enterprises." What he didn't know was that Blackwood Enterprises had been buying up his debts for months. They owned pieces of Morrison Industries scattered across a dozen shell companies. And the CEO of Blackwood Enterprises had been waiting 5 years for this moment. The woman in the boardroom. The day of the meeting arrived. Marcus adjusted his tie nervously as he waited in the conference room. He'd researched Blackwood Enterprises, but information was scarce. The company had appeared 5 years ago from nowhere and built a fortune in tech acquisitions. The CEO went by E.M. Blackwood and never gave public interviews. The doors opened. A woman walked in, flanked by 2 attorneys. She wore a tailored black suit that screamed power and money. Her dark hair was pulled back in an elegant twist. Diamond earrings caught the light. She moved with confidence that made everyone in the room sit up straighter. Marcus stared. There was something familiar about her, but he couldn't place it. "Mr. Morrison," she said, her voice cool and professional. "I'm E.M. Blackwood. Shall we begin?" The first strike. They sat across from each other, and Marcus felt increasingly uncomfortable under her steady gaze. Those eyes, dark and intelligent, seemed to look right through him. "Your company is worth $400 million on paper," she said, sliding documents across the table. "In reality, it's worth $150 million, and that's being generous. You have outstanding debts of $300 million, which means you're technically bankrupt." Marcus's face reddened. "That's not. We have assets. Assets that are mortgaged 3 times over," she interrupted smoothly. I've done my research, Mr. Morrison. Every property, every patent, every subsidiary, they're all leveraged to the breaking point. You made aggressive moves 5 years ago that paid off initially, but then you got greedy. Bad investments in cryptocurrency. Failed expansion into the Asian markets. A merger that fell through and cost you $200 million in penalties. She leaned back, studying him. You're drowning, and I'm your only lifeline. Marcus slammed his hand on the table. Who the hell do you think you are? She smiled, cold and sharp. I'm the person who's about to own everything you have. The recognition. As Marcus stared at her, something clicked. The shape of her face. The way she tilted her head. But it couldn't be. Elena, he whispered. The boardroom went silent. Her smile widened. Hello, Marcus. It's been a long time. Marcus fell back in his chair like he'd been punched. That's impossible. You disappeared. You had nothing. You were broken, useless, boring. Elena finished for him. Yes, I remember all the things you called me. I remember everything, Marcus. Every lie, every betrayal, every cruel word. She stood and walked to the window, her heels clicking on the marble floor. You want to know what happened to me? After I signed those divorce papers, I got on a bus with $200 in a suitcase. I ended up in a motel in New Jersey. And that's where I lost your baby. Marcus went pale. Baby? What baby? The lost child. Elena's voice remained steady, but her eyes held an ocean of pain. I was 8 weeks pregnant when you threw me out. I was going to tell you at our anniversary dinner. Instead, I signed divorce papers while carrying your child. She turned to face him. I lost the baby 3 days later in that motel room. Alone. Bleeding. With no money for a hospital and no one who cared if I lived or died. That was my rock bottom, Marcus. That's where you left me. Marcus's hands shook. Elena, I didn't know. You didn't care to know, she corrected. You got what you wanted from me and threw me away like trash. But something interesting happened in that motel room. As I lay there, losing everything including our child, I made a choice. I could die there or I could survive.
Il chose survival.
She walked back to the table and sat down, her composure perfect. I took the $200 I had left and bought a laptop from a pawn shop. I started freelancing, web design, coding, anything I could do online. I worked 18-hour days from that motel room. I slept 4 hours a night.
I $8 store noodles.
And I saved every penny. The empire built from ashes. Within 6 months, I had $50,000. Elena continued. I used it to buy a failing tech startup. I turned it around in a year and sold it for $5 million. Then I bought another company. And another. Each time I got smarter. Each time I got richer. Each time I got more powerful. She opened a folder and spread papers across the table. I built Blackwood Enterprises from nothing. We're now worth $3 billion. We have offices in 12 countries. We employ 10,000 people. And for the past 2 years, we've been quietly buying up pieces of your company, Marcus. Pieces you didn't even know were for sale. Marcus grabbed the papers with shaking hands. Line after line showed Blackwood Enterprises owning parts of Morrison Industries through various subsidiaries. You own 30% of my company, he breathed. 35% as of this morning, Elena corrected. And with this acquisition, I'll own 51%. Which means I'll own you, the investigation revealed. Elena pressed a button on her phone. A screen descended from the ceiling, and documents appeared. While building my empire, I also did something else. I investigated you and Victoria. I hired the best forensic accountants in the world. And do you know what they found? Images filled the screen, bank transfers, emails, contracts. You didn't just take my father's company shares, Marcus. You committed fraud. The documents I signed giving you those shares, they were falsified. You forged my father's signature on several key documents that made the transfer look legitimate. That's forgery and fraud, federal crimes. Marcus stood up, his chair falling backward. You can't prove. I can prove everything, Elena said calmly. I have emails between you and Victoria planning the entire scheme. I have recordings of conversations where you discussed how to manipulate me. I have bank records showing how you moved money through shell companies to hide the theft. I have everything, Marcus. I've had it for 3 years. I've just been waiting for the right moment to use it. She stood and walked around the table until she was standing directly in front of him. That moment is now. Victoria's downfall. Let me tell you about Victoria, Elena said. Your beloved wife. How is married life treating you? Marcus's face contorted with anger and misery. That's none of your business. Oh, but it is, Elena smiled. You see, Victoria reached out to me 2 years ago. She was miserable. Apparently, marrying you wasn't the fairy tale she'd imagined. You ignore her. You criticize her. You make her feel worthless. Sound familiar? She pulled out her phone and showed Marcus a series of text messages. She offered to testify against you in exchange for immunity. She was willing to confirm everything, the affair, the planning, the fraud. All of it. Marcus grabbed the phone, reading the messages with horror. She wouldn't. She absolutely would, Elena said. Victoria is exactly like you, Marcus. Selfish and cowardly. The moment things got difficult, she tried to save herself by throwing you under the bus. I have her sworn testimony ready to submit to federal prosecutors. She took the phone back. But I told her no. Do you know why? Because I want you both to suffer. Together. The way you made me suffer. The crumbling marriage. Marcus sank into his chair. What do you want? I want you to understand what you destroyed, Elena said quietly. My father built Morrison Technologies over 30 years. He employed thousands of people. He created innovations that changed lives. And you stripped it for parts and threw it away because you were greedy. She pulled up another document on the screen. This is a list of every employee who lost their jobs when you dismantled my father's company. 847 people. Some of them had worked there for 20 years. You fired them all without severance because you wanted to maximize profits. Marcus couldn't look at the screen. Business is business.
No, Marcus.
Cruelty is cruelty, Elena said. And now you'll experience what they experienced. How does it feel to watch your empire crumble? How does it feel to be powerless? She gathered her papers.
I'm buying Morrison Industries.
I'm stripping you of your CEO position. You'll work as a consultant with no real power until I've extracted every bit of value from the company. Then you'll be fired with no severance. Just like you did to my father's employees. The truth about Daniel. As Elena prepared to leave, Marcus called out desperately, How did you do it? How did you really build all this? Nobody goes from nothing to billions in 5 years. Elena paused at the door. You're right. I had help. A man entered the boardroom, tall, distinguished, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He was in his early 40s, wearing an expensive suit that fit perfectly. Marcus Morrison, meet Daniel Chun, Elena said. My business partner and the son of my father's original partner in Morrison Technologies. Marcus's eyes widened. Chen? But the Chun family disappeared after. After you destroyed the company? Daniel finished. Yes, my father lost everything when you dismantled Morrison. He died of a heart attack 6 months later. I was living in Hong Kong running my own tech company. When I heard what happened, I started investigating. That's how I found Elena. The partnership formed. Daniel walked to stand beside Elena. I found her in that motel room in New Jersey. She was broken, grieving, angry. But she had something I recognized: fire, determination, intelligence. She reminded me of my father and her father when they first started their company. He looked at Marcus with cold contempt. I offered Elena a partnership. My capital and connections, her vision and drive. Together, we built Blackwood Enterprises. Every company we bought, every success we achieved, it was all leading to this moment. Revenge against the man who destroyed our families. Marcus looked between them. Are you two? Together.
Elena smiled.
That's none of your business, Marcus. But I will tell you this. Daniel has been more of a partner to me in 5 years than you were in 5 minutes of our marriage. He's loyal, honest, and brilliant. Everything you're not. Daniel placed a protective hand on Elena's shoulder. Elena is the smartest business mind I've ever encountered. She turned my $10 million investment into $3 billion. She did that. Not me. I just provided the initial capital. Everything else? That was pure Elena. The final confrontation. Marcus stood, desperation making him bold. Elena, please. I made a mistake. I was young and stupid and greedy. But we had something real once, didn't we? I loved you. Stop, Elena said, her voice sharp. You never loved me, Marcus. You loved what I could give you. And when I gave it to you, you threw me away. That's not love. That's exploitation. She moved closer to him. You want to know the worst part? I actually believed you. When you held me after my father's funeral, I thought you cared. When you made love to me, I thought it meant something. When you said you'd protect me forever, I believed you. That's what hurts the most. Not that you betrayed me, but that I was fool enough to trust you. Tears ran down Marcus's face.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. Your apologies are 5 years too late, Elena said. You had your chance to be a good man. You chose to be a monster instead. Now you get to live with that choice. The public revelation. Elena's phone buzzed. She checked it and smiled. Perfect timing. Marcus, do you remember the Hawthorne Charity Gala tonight? Marcus went pale. What about it? Well, E.M. Blackwood is the guest of honor, Elena said. And I've prepared a very special presentation about corporate fraud and redemption. It includes evidence of your crimes, video testimony from Victoria, and a detailed account of everything you did. By tomorrow morning, everyone in New York will know exactly who you are. She picked up her briefcase. I suggest you attend. It would be rude to miss your own public execution. Marcus lunged forward, but Daniel stepped between them. Touch her, and I'll have you arrested for assault. The building is full of cameras, Morrison. Everyone is watching. Marcus collapsed back into his chair, defeated. You've destroyed me. No, Elena said softly. You destroyed yourself. I'm just making sure everyone knows it. The gala announcement. That evening, the Hawthorne Hotel ballroom glittered with New York's elite. Marcus stood in the corner watching Elena. No, E.M. Blackwood. Command the room. She was radiant in a silver gown, diamonds at her throat, Daniel Chun by her side. When she took the stage, the room fell silent. Tonight, I want to talk about betrayal, she began. 5 years ago, I was betrayed by the two people I trusted most, my husband and my best friend. They stole my inheritance, destroyed my father's legacy, and threw me away like garbage. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus felt everyone's eyes turn toward him. That woman was named Elena Morrison, she continued. But Elena Morrison died in a motel room in New Jersey. She was weak. She was naive. She was broken. I am what rose from her ashes. I am E.M. Blackwood. And tonight, I'm here to show you what happens when you betray someone who refuses to stay down. The screens behind her lit up with evidence, documents, emails, recordings. 5 years of investigation displayed for all of New York's elite to see. Marcus turned to leave, but found his path blocked by security. Ms. Blackwood requested you stay for the entire presentation, one guard said politely. He was trapped, just like Elena had been trapped 5 years ago in that penthouse. The price of revenge. As Elena detailed every crime, every betrayal, every cruelty, Marcus watched his world end. His phone buzzed constantly. Board members resigning, partners pulling out, friends sending messages of shock and disgust. Victoria, standing on the other side of the room, looked equally destroyed. She tried to approach Elena after the presentation, but Daniel blocked her path. Stay away from her, he said coldly. You've done enough damage. When the presentation ended, Elena walked past Marcus without a word. But then she paused and turned back. You asked how it feels to be powerless, Marcus? Now you know. Sleep well. She walked away on Daniel's arm, leaving Marcus standing alone in a room full of people who wouldn't meet his eyes. The billionaire's betrayed wife had returned, and she had brought his ruin with her. Marcus's empire has crumbled, but Elena's revenge isn't finished. Victoria still has a card to play, and Daniel's feelings for Elena will be revealed. The final chapter approaches with choices that will determine everyone's fate. Part 3 brings the ultimate conclusion: revenge and redemption. The morning after, Elena woke in her penthouse suite, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Central Park. 5 years ago, she'd left New York with nothing. Now she owned one of the most expensive properties in the city, purchased with her own money, built by her own hands. Her phone had been ringing since dawn. News outlets wanted interviews. Business partners offered congratulations. The story of E.M. Blackwood's revelation was on every news channel and trending on every social media platform. But one message caught her attention. It was from Victoria. "We need to talk. Please. I have something you need to hear. Meet me at the cafe where we used to study.
10 Uhr morgens.
Come alone." Elena stared at the message. Every instinct told her to delete it. Victoria had already betrayed her once. But curiosity won. What could Victoria possibly have to say now? Daniel knocked on her bedroom door.
Elena?
"Are you awake? I brought breakfast." She opened the door to find him carrying a tray with coffee, croissants, and fresh fruit. Even after 5 years of partnership, his kindness still surprised her. "You don't have to take care of me," she said softly. Daniel set the tray down and looked at her with those steady, honest eyes. "I want to. I've always wanted to." The confession of feelings. Elena sat on the edge of her bed, suddenly nervous. There had always been something unspoken between them, a connection deeper than business, but neither had acknowledged it. "Daniel, let me speak first," he interrupted gently. "Last night, watching you take down Marcus, seeing you reclaim your power, I've never been more proud of anyone in my life. But I also realized something. I can't keep pretending anymore." He knelt in front of her, taking her hands in his. "Elena, I fell in love with you the moment I found you in that motel room. You were broken and grieving, but there was fire in your eyes. You refused to give up. Over these 5 years, I've watched you become the strongest, most brilliant woman I've ever known. And I've loved you every single day." Elena's breath caught. "Daniel, I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," he said quickly. "I know you're not ready. I know Marcus hurt you so badly that trusting another man might be impossible. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that when you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be here. I'll wait as long as it takes." Tears filled Elena's eyes. "You've already waited 5 years. I'd wait 50 more, Daniel said simply. The dangerous meeting. At 10 a.m., Elena walked into the small cafe near Columbia University. It looked exactly the same as it had 7 years ago when she and Victoria would spend hours here studying, laughing, and dreaming about their futures. Victoria sat in their old corner booth, looking nothing like the confident woman who'd stolen Elena's husband. She'd lost weight. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Her expensive clothes hung loosely on her frame. "Thank you for coming," Victoria said as Elena slid into the booth across from her. "You have 5 minutes," Elena replied coldly. Victoria's hands shook as she wrapped them around her coffee cup. "I deserve your hatred. I deserve everything you've done to me. But there's something you need to know about Marcus. Something dangerous." Elena raised an eyebrow. "If this is some scheme." "He's planning something," Victoria interrupted urgently. "After your presentation last night, he came home raging. He was drunk and violent. He broke things, screamed about how you destroyed him. And then he made a phone call." She pulled out her phone and slid it across the table. "I recorded it. Listen." The recording. Elena pressed play. Marcus's voice filled the small space between them, slurred and angry. "I don't care what it costs. I want her destroyed. Not just her company, her. I want E.M. Blackwood erased from existence. Do whatever you have to do." An unfamiliar voice responded. That kind of work requires discretion. And it's expensive. I'll pay anything, Marcus said. Just make her disappear. Make it look like an accident. I want her to suffer the way she made me suffer. The recording ended. Elena felt ice run through her veins. He hired someone to kill you, Victoria whispered. That call was 3 hours ago. Elena, I know I'm the last person you should trust, but I couldn't let him do this. Whatever else I've done, I don't want you dead. Elena studied Victoria carefully. Why should I believe you? This could be another manipulation. Because I'm already destroyed, Victoria said, tears streaming down her face. My reputation is ruined. My marriage is over. I have nothing left to gain by lying to you. But if Marcus succeeds in hurting you, I'll never forgive myself. I betrayed you once. I won't do it again. The truth about Victoria. Victoria wiped her tears. I need to tell you something else. Something I should have said 5 years ago. When I helped Marcus steal from you, I told myself it was just business. I told myself you'd be fine, that you came from privilege and would land on your feet. She took a shaky breath. But the truth is I was jealous. Desperately, bitterly jealous. You had everything I wanted. A loving father, genuine kindness, and the ability to trust people. I grew up with nothing. My parents were addicts. I clawed my way to Columbia on scholarships and lies. When I met you, I wanted to be you so badly it made me sick. Elena remained silent, letting Victoria continue.